Hello, welcome back. And we're having this conversation with Ibrahim Modibbo, political affairs analyst and former member of the media team of the Tinubu Shetima APC Presidential Campaign Council. Thank you very much for being with us, Ibrahim. And just before we continue, Wale in Ife has called in. Good morning, Wale.
Good morning, Uncle.
Thank you for calling.
Good morning, and good morning to your guests. It's just my little take on this issue of subsidy removal and the Broha it has endangered.
Okay.
So the first I want to point out is that removal of subsidy is an act of parliament done by the Petroleum Industry Act. So, and this act took more than 10 years before it was finally passed by the Assembly.
Mm-hmm.
So if Labour wanted to change it, there are processes open to changing those things. But they did not do that, which means that, and I'm sure when this thing was being done, Labour had their own inputs. So you see, I want us to interrogate that aspect of it. Now, another thing was that when this bill was passed, the previous government was prevailed upon to let the old regime of subsidy run for 18 months.
You know, you started out proper, okay, but suddenly it started going down and I can't hear you as well as when you started. I don't know if it's from here or there. Can you continue, please? Maybe I'll hear you a bit better. Please continue.
Can you hear me properly now? Yes. I said, when that bill was passed,
yes,
there was the government was prevailed upon to let the subsidy regime run for another 18 months.
Yes.
Which means that everybody, including Labour, had 18 months notice. Now, by May, when President Tinubu came in, NNPC had already informed us that the government stopped paying since February 2022, and the country was owing NNPC 2.8 trillion naira. And it was just a month to the end of the 18 months notice, which means the subsidy was supposed to run for just 1 month. And NNPC said they did not have 1 penny to pay for the subsidy any longer. Now, the president had 3 options staring him in the face at that level, at that moment. 1, the first option is to go out there and borrow money to fund the 1 month subsidy, which Nigerians will not want. 2, the second option is refuse to pay salary for that 1 month and use the money for subsidy, which nobody will accept. Then the third option was to run with it. That, okay, let subsidy end. And that was the option he took. Now, my question is, Labour was part of the passing of this bill. Labour was aware. And Labour had 18 months notice. Then the then government told us they had 250 billion on ground for conversion into CNG. Now, what was Labour doing those 18 months to see that the government walk the talk? Particularly, I would direct this to Comrade Osifo. He's from the oil and gas industry. He knows the processes that it will take from scratch to getting CNG to everywhere. Is it a 2-month project, a process? Is it a 3-month process? So what did they do in those 18 months? Knowing fully well that the process of CNG is not a 1 month or 2 months work. So we should ask Labour. That's why people now start thinking that Labour is playing to another agenda, that they are not really fighting for the people. You had 18 good months. You did not ask the government that what are they doing?
All right, then. Well, thank you very much for calling in, Comrade Wale. Ibrahim, coming back to you. You heard that. Would you like to comment?
Yeah. He has spoken my mind because truly this bill has been there for Nigerians and almost all Nigerians that are interested, because interest is of paramount importance. If you're not interested in it, you might not have come across it. But the bill had been there. But, you see, I have to commend President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for doing one thing, for having the guts Former presidents were there when these bills came on board, but did they implement it? If they had done it, it couldn't have been a Tinubu affair. But there was no guts. And also feeling the pressure that has been mounted by Labour then, and maybe most Nigerians, they've decided, to withdraw, from the withdrawal syndrome. And therefore, they left the Tinubu administration to carry the can. And the president has been able to pick up the gauntlet, and then he did it. Now, having done it, we know the situations like this, there is no how it cannot come with pains. But once you have pains, you are likely to have gains. And therefore, that's the situation we're in now. The trade union or the labor, I must commend them for understanding with the government, at least for not going on this strike. If they had gone, it would have made the situation very worse.
Yes.
That the economy is going to be in shambles, it will cripple the economy, and also life will not be as good as maybe we think it should be. So having had that compassion and having understood the situation of government, having withdrawn this battle line that has been drawn, I think it has been done in a spirit of camaraderie, and we have to appreciate them. And also for the president to be a listening president, for him to have brought in the salary increase and other palliatives, like even given about 15 million households, 25,000 naira every month for 3 months. Also bringing out the CNG-induced vehicles and what have you, and other palliatives associated with all this. I think it has been done in good spirit. And also the government has been able to do well. We have to look forward. Let us not think of interrogating unnecessarily about the labor issues having known this. Let us not bring the old flames and passion. Let us think of how
I hear you. Let me at this opportunity bring in Kennedy, I beg your pardon. Somebody was saying Kenneth. Kennedy, our own Kennedy, in Port Harcourt. Good morning to you.
Yes. Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Yori. Good morning to you.
Thank you.
It looked like Ibrahim Modibbo is still speaking. Maybe I should allow him round up and then I'll continue. I'll stay on the phone.
I put you on so that you could go ahead. Go ahead, please.
Okay. You see, my appeal is this. This government, as I have personally come to see, is a government that means well. I want to ask a question. During the time of campaigning, I could remember not one, not two, not three, not four presidential candidates used the removal of petrol subsidy as a campaign slogan. If I am wrong, please correct me.
You're spot on. You're dead right.
Somebody among them now came on and decided to take the bull by the horn without pretending about it, and went on ahead to kick this subsidy. Now, for the fact that he went ahead to kick this subsidy thing, what are we now supposed to do? Are we not supposed to now galvanize our efforts to see that we support this government for the betterment of the country? If our interests are not parochial and selfish, if our interests are not individual-based, are we not supposed to now galvanize our knowledge and then support this government with it so that the government succeed? I don't know, I'm just asking a question. Now, add to that, Labour is not even helping issues at all. Because from my standpoint and from my understanding, Labour is supposed to help the government to sensitize the public as far as the benefits of the government policies are concerned. Not trying to worsen the situation. Now just imagine if the country had gone on strike today, would that have been better for us or worse for us as a country? So Labour should please do the needful and stop playing, dancing to the music. It is no longer necessary. The government is listening. Let us find a way to continually engage the government. You see, policies, as much as I know, don't happen overnight. Policies take time. Policies have their gestation period, and they must follow suit, and then these things will now start playing out the way we expect them.
Okay.
So Labour should please cooperate with the government and help sensitize the people.
Indeed.
And not trying to stir the people up to make the government's work even more cumbersome than it already is.
All right. Thank you very
So
much for
please,
calling in, Kennedy. Appreciate your call. But it can be said, it needs to be said that Labour is working with government because, as you've just said, can you imagine the situation if they indeed had gone on strike? So to that extent, they themselves are saying that, look, okay, it's not willy-nilly. Let's look at this. It's not as if we don't want to hear anything. They are going to reason about it. So to that extent, Labour has to be given its own chops as well. We don't want to demonize Labour here. But as Ibrahim said at the top of the program, we're looking at it, what, 4 months? 4 months into a 48 months, God willing, 48-month stint in the first instance before it goes on to 96 months, as the case may be. I like the fact that Ibrahim put that cautionary note out there that it's pretty difficult, but nevertheless, there's so much that can be achieved that we can even look and say that within this microscopic period of just 4 months odd, how has it been? And I think from all indications, there's so much potential, there's so much promise. A lot of things have been started off that we will reap the benefit of. And I think that is the point that conversations can usefully be focused upon, as opposed to what is coming out. As I said at the time, opposition is entitled to its views, but people are just not saying anything positive at all, as if nothing positive has happened. Look at the cabinet, look at the ministries. Suddenly we're now hearing about the blue economy, we're hearing about solid minerals, we're hearing about tourism in a big sort of a way. All those things that have been started, and that certainly we're talking, is it the digital, IT and digital, all those things that have been started that weren't there before and that are going to yield much fruit are not, people just go silent on that. But Ibrahim, this is the kind of situation, I suppose it's human. It's a human situation where you lost and you're not going to be a good loser. And as Kennedy was just saying, rally around the winner. Instead, we're hearing things like monumental policies were not well thought out.
You see, Uncle Yori, a lot of people, especially the opposition, when they speak, I can understand them speaking based on impulses and instincts. That is very common with the opposition. If they were to be in this position, I can assure you that maybe by now things would have even been worse. It's very easy to say than to do, to walk the talk. Some of these politicians, they are just, we've seen in the days gone by, where we saw rainbow coalition of strange political bedfellows that came up under a political party without any defined agenda. Their main agenda for campaigns was just to dance, and at the end of the day, they will just mobilize and use money, sit under trees, write results, and capture power without knowing what to do with power. But where we are, with a man that came in spite of all the hurdles that have been placed on his road, bumpy road, so to say. They removed, changed monies, did all sorts of things, to distract him.
All sorts of distractions. All sorts of distractions.
Yes, all those things were distractions, so as to make sure that he loses, or he loses that last election. But God is a God of justice. He has been able to bring up all those problems into prosperity, where we saw an election that was free, fair, credible, and transparent in sub-Saharan Africa.
And also thank God for the fact that it's clear to anybody who is going to be honest that he landed with a definite plan ready to execute. Let me bring on Mr. Joshua calling in from Irewolide in Ogun State. Good morning.
Okay. Good morning to you. How are you? And greet your guest.
Yes.
First, I think thank you for this platform, Uncle Yori, where at least we're able to talk. And for once, it's obvious that the government is as much more than before. But I could observe from the press that he is referring what the general discussion is. So, have a president who is taking the point. Unfortunately for us,
oh dear. I wonder if it's not raining over in Ogun State. I don't know, but for the first time, we've had this sort of interference. So sorry about that. Joshua calling in from Irewolide in Ogun State. But our connection with Ibrahim Modibbo is solid. And I don't know what he was going to say, but he wanted the conversation. We're looking at the first, 4 months, as it were, of the Tinubu administration and the gains that have been made, and even some of the challenges that are being facing and how those are going to be addressed. There's much to glean in that regard in the president's independence speech, which gave the opportunity of the president talking to the nation and telling us about the vision of this administration, he and his men. We're talking about some of those things that immediately suffered. The freedom with which we used to travel, financial freedom with which we used to travel around the country, very, very important. That has been impacted upon. But immediately, this whole CNC thing, it has been announced. We were saying when we were speaking about that on Independence Day that it would be nice to have a sort of a roadmap, a sort of a timeline that these things are there so that we can check ourselves and know where we need to make adjustments, that kind of a thing. Because people have said, yes, all of these goodies, it must be said, there's something to look forward to, but perhaps it can also be helpful in terms of planning and also in managing the expectation of the people, what the timeline that government expects are. I don't know if you'd like to comment on that, because people have said a lot of good things in the bouquet, in the basket, but perhaps it can be helpful for planning if we also knew what the expectations were. Do you see that as a fair comment?
Yes. As I've stated, Uncle Yori, in my introductory note, for a president to come out to critically examine himself, to feel the pains of Nigerians, is something that has been exceptional. It's something that is out of the ordinary. It's exceptional. For him to feel the pains of Nigerians and also attaching himself to the problems associated with the country is one area that we think that need commendation. Therefore, we know that in every opportunity there could be, adverse effects or thereabout. We know that there are challenges. The president has been making a lot of inroads into developmental structures of this country, but there are also challenges. And these challenges...
Let me quickly squeeze in. Ibrahim, I apologize for interrupting you, but let me squeeze in Ada, who has been waiting on the line. Good morning, Ada, calling from Jos.
Good morning, Ibrahim and Modibbo. It's Ada now calling from Jos. I'm running out of time. Please, what I want to appeal to you, I'm using your medium to appeal to President Tinubu, since he's a listening president. Please, let him revisit this idea of university charges,
Okay.
It's becoming a problem now.
Okay.
Find a way. Even they can have a meeting with the vice chancellors, with the Minister of Education. Let them find a way of, agreeing with the VCs on how to go about this. Because we're going to have so many students dropping out of school. If you have been listening, many of them have turned to beggars. Some of them cannot go back to school. They know they are talking about it's not accessible. It's going to be dangerous.
Okay, Ada, I've got to interrupt you there, but thank you very much. And I think you made that point. There are two people you can trust to always major on education. Ada is one, Mazi Okorafor is another. Thank you very much. We caught that and you put it out there. Ibrahim, we've almost run out of time now, but I want to thank you very much for agreeing to engage in this conversation on the gains of the Tinubu administration, and indeed, perhaps even more importantly, the expectations, the better expectations that are ahead of us if we stay the course. I want to thank you very much once again, Ibrahim Modibbo, political affairs analyst.
Uncle Yori, let me quickly put in what
15
Ada
seconds.
is saying. Honestly,
in 15 seconds.
Yes. Honestly, what Mr. President is trying to do in education is something that is wonderful. He has put in a right minister with right frame of mind and also a peaceful man. I'm sure that all these crises in university will be a thing of the past. And I'm sure they are going to look dispassionately at issues of education because this is a man that values education. And therefore, God willing, Ada, your prayers have been answered.
Thank you very much. We're going to have to leave it there now. That's where we're going to leave it. Thank you, as I said once more, Ibrahim Modibbo. And please join us tomorrow for a fresh edition. I am Yori Folarin. Bye-bye for now.